This is a quick rotation guide for Holy Paladin, the War Within. So, first of all, how does Holy Paladin work? We have Holy Power here. That is our main resource, as well as mana, as a Holy Paladin, and some of our abilities will generate Holy Power, and some will spend them. And we have a general priority list. In this build, we are going to be pretty much a melee Holy Paladin healer, which is interesting if you're not kind of well versed in paladins. They're quite unusual compared to other healers, which is actually really nice. It plays a lot more fun than you may think if you're used to playing a ranged healer. We are going to be going with Herald of the Sun in both raiding and Mythic Plus and dungeons for Holy Paladin in the War Within. Herald of the Sun gives us Dawnlight. Casting Holy Prism or Barrier of Faith causes your next 2 Holy Power spending abilities to apply Dawnlight to your target, healing them over 8 seconds. 8% of Dawnlight's damage and healing radiates to nearby allies or enemies, reduced beyond 5 targets. It's also going to replace our Word of Glory. This is a single target Holy Power spender that we have, and that's going to basically replace it, so it's just better. And then we've got Sun's Avatar. That is the main secondary keystone talent in the Herald of the Sun talents. During Avenging Wrath, you become linked to your Dawnlights, causing radiant damage to enemies or healing to allies that pass through the beams. And that's also reduced beyond 5 targets. Activating Avenging Wrath applies up to 4 Dawnlights to nearby enemies and increases Dawnlight's duration by 20%. So then, how are we going to play it? Well, the first thing we have here is Beacon of Virtue, and in a raiding setting, this is the main priority we're going to be using. It applies a Beacon of Light to your target and 4 other injured allies. Basically, what a Beacon of Light does is when you apply that to an ally, it will let everyone else you heal, you'll also receive healing on the beacon. So if I heal these 5 people over here, and somebody over here has a beacon on them, when I heal those 5 people, the beaconed person will also be healed. It's only on a 15-second cooldown, and you want to use this a lot. That is your top priority as a Holy Paladin in raiding for the War Within. The next would be to use your Holy Power so you don't overcap it. You can see here we can have up to 5 Holy Power. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we make any more Holy Power, we're going to overcap and technically waste it. So we want to make sure we're using it as a top priority when we hit 5 so we don't overcap. How will we do that? Well, in raiding, it's Eternal Flame for single target healing, and then Light of Dawn, which is like a cone. Can you see? It's like a cone. That will kind of heal everyone in a cone. So it's up to you in what sort of way you would like to use that Holy Power, using the Light of Dawn or your Eternal Flame. If you're in melee, which you often will be, you can use that cone to heal a lot of people if everyone's grouped up, or single target healing with Holy Power would be for your Eternal Flame. After that, it's going to be Holy Light, but only after using Holy Prism. Why is that, you may ask? Because Holy Prism gives you this buff, Divine Favour. After casting Holy Prism, the healing of your next Holy Light is increased, its mana cost is reduced, and its cast time is reduced. So when I now use Holy Light, it's a lot quicker after using Holy Prism. Something else that you can also double up with this is Infusion of Light. Your critical Holy Shocks, so when you get a critical hit with a Holy Shock, it empowers your next Holy Light, where it doubles the healing, and that is Holy Shock here, one of our main ways of generating Holy Power. So if we get a critical hit with this, it's then going to empower our Holy Light, and we can double that up with the Divine Favour buff we get from using Holy Prism to do a super duper Holy Light. Holy Shock then, talking about this one in a bit more depth now, it triggers a burst of light on the target, dealing damage or healing an enemy. And it actually has 2 charges, and it's going to generate 1 Holy Power. We're going to be spreading this out a lot in a raiding environment to get our Holy Power up in very quick succession. We then have Judgment, judges the enemy, doing damage, but also preventing damage from coming out from that enemy. Meaning, if I judge an enemy, it's actually going to reduce how much damage they now do to my allies. So it's actually, rather than healing them, it's preventing healing from ever happening. And that's also going to generate 1 Holy Power. And FYI, from left to right is the general kind of priority that we're going to be using these things in. Then we have Crusader Strike. You're going to want to use this on cooldown, as it's going to deal some damage, generate 1 Holy Power, and also actually reduce the cooldown slightly on your Holy Shock. Then we have Eternal Flame and Light of Dawn here again. So the reason I set it up here as a top priority is to not overcap. But now we've got 4 Holy Power, and we can use it here. So use it as a really high priority, so you don't overcap Holy Power, but use it as a lower priority if you need to, and it's just got like maybe 3 Holy Power to use. After that, we can use Flash of Light as just some spot healing, and then Hammer of Wrath whenever available on cooldown, but as a low priority. Hurling a hammer that strikes an enemy generates a Holy Power, but you can only use it on enemies with 20% or less health, unless you're in your Avenging Wrath cooldown. It's every 2 minutes you can use this. Call upon the light to become an avatar of retribution, allowing Hammer of Wrath, this one, to be used on a target with any percentage of health rather than just below 20, and increasing your damage, healing, and critical strike chance by 15% for 20 seconds. And that is our major cooldown. And that pretty much is how you are going to be using your spells in a raiding environment. One other cooldown that you do have is Divine Toll here, instantly casting Holy Shock on up to 5 targets within 30 yards. And that is phenomenal as well. If we then look at the Mythic Plus build, very, very few talents are changing here, and you'll actually see that the rotation is pretty much staying the same. Keep using your Beacon of Virtue. Stay in your Consecration, however. This is going to consecrate the land beneath you. And if you look at this talent over here, Strength of Conviction, while in your Consecration, your Word of Glory, which is now replaced with Eternal Flame, will have increased healing. Use Eternal Flame and Light of Dawn, pretty much the same, max Holy Power. I would use Eternal Flame a lot more in Mythic Plus because it's harder to get that cone healing in Mythic Plus with all the movement, etc. that generally happens. Holy Light with these 3 spells the same way. Flash of Light as you will with your Beacon of Virtue. It's a lot easier to do spot healing on your beacons in Mythic Plus with this because there's only 5 of you. Judgment and Crusader Strike the same, and everything else is pretty much the same as well for Mythic Plus healing. Now, if you would like the full, absolute, in-depth guide rather than this quick guide, then check out the link in the description and pinned comment. That is my full Holy Paladin guide for the War Within that goes into a lot more depth than this one does. If you would also like, you can join my Patreon, where I've put a ton of class and spec-specific macros for the War Within. You can get my LVI profiles, and if you have any questions about your rotation, you can join the Discord, and there's a VIP channel for Patreons where I and other members of the community can help you out. And if you're looking for other quick guides, whether PvE or PvP, you can get them all here in this playlist.